Everyone, welcome to the third annual Candidates Forum. I'm Chris Morano, the Director for the Council on Aging. The Council on Aging has a mission of providing resources and information to the 800 seniors that live in our community. And so we have this forum every year so that our seniors, as well as the community at large, will have an opportunity to have the information they need to vote knowledgeably in the election that's coming up May 21st. Our two candidates, Brian Cherry and John Trainer, are here tonight to introduce themselves, and then they'll be able to answer questions from the audience. And this is the format that I would like to follow. Each candidate will introduce themselves and have 3 minutes to do that. And then we'll open it up to the audience to questions. When you are called on, please state your name and your address so we know who you are and who you would like your question addressed to. And then I will time it for 3 minutes so that they will have a limited time to answer. I'll ring the bell so we'll know when that 3 minutes is up, and then it will give them an opportunity to wrap up their response. If you have more than one question, I would appreciate it if you'd hold it off so that everyone will get at least one chance excuse me, to ask their questions, and then we'll go back and have duplicate questions from those of you that may have more than one thing to ask. So with that, we will begin our forum with the toss of a coin. Brian was selected to go first. This is Brian Cherry, and there's John Trainer. So Brian?
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone, for being here. My name's Brian Cherry. I'm the conservative candidate here running for selectman in the town. I've been on the South Shore pretty much my entire life, except for maybe 1 year, 2 years. I moved to New Hampshire. I certainly have a lot of real-world and experience in the public and private sector. Currently, I'm the director of facilities in the town of Duxbury. You know, being in facilities management, you really have a seat at the big table with respect to budget building, capital planning, energy audits, energy projections, renewable projects and such. Again, I'm a conservative candidate, and you know, I feel I can be an asset to the town, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Brian. John?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you all for coming. John Trainer, 62 Crescent Street. I've been living in the town since 1970. My wife and I actually bought land here in 1964 to build, and we went overseas for a while, came back, and finally got the house up. Had 3 children, all went through the Dennett School, Silver Lake Regional High School, and then on to college. I've been involved in Plympton town politics for over 28 years. I was on the finance committee for 12 years. A number of those years I was chairman. I was a Plympton library trustee for 8 years. And for the last 8 years I've been town moderator. And next Wednesday will be my 9th annual meeting. I'm presently working on 2 committees. One which is implementing the Department of Revenue recommendations. We had the department come in and do an analysis of the town and make recommendations. Out of that came a second committee which is working with the University of Massachusetts Collins Center through a state grant. And we're developing 5-year financial forecasts, capital spending plan, and policies for running the town. Much overdue, much needed. I'm also a member of the Plympton Garden Club, the Plympton Historical Society, and the Upland Club, where I was past president, vice president, treasurer, and director. Was also a member of SCORE, which is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. My wife and I have lived in this town for many years. We have deep roots here, and we love it. And I'd like to serve the town. So with that, I'll go to the questions.
Thank you, John. Someone raised their hand who has a question for one of the candidates.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
Yes, Dick Reynolds from Montgomery County Road. I'm curious as to what you will do or could do about the floodplain, redrawing the floodplain maps. I lived in this town for well over 60 years, and I live in a home on the on the Jones River Brook. And I've lived there, never had any problem there, and all of a sudden, I had a line of credit, and I get a thing from my bank saying, sir, you have to have flood insurance. Now, my house was built in the 1850s, and I'm just wondering whether if there's anybody that's going to do anything. I'm looking for myself personally, naturally, but and I know there are others.
Who did you want to address your question to?
Oh, to Mr. Cherry.
Well, I'll certainly, partner with you in engaging any state or federal, jurisdictions with respect to that issue. I don't have any personal experience with it, but, I would certainly, fight on your behalf to plead your case. I don't know how it's impacted you personally, financially with your policy, but I would certainly, fight hard to, on your behalf to, hopefully get some results that you're happy with.
Well, I'm thinking of the time that I have to sell my home. I'm getting older, and all of a sudden somebody said, well, you got to have flood insurance to a buyer, and it's not cheap.
Maybe we can look into some mechanisms for delaying or for appealing. Again, I don't have a significant personal experience with that, but I'd certainly be willing to look into it.
It's one of the problems that has come along since the federal government put in this federal insurance. I know I have a brother-in-law down the Cape who has a place on the water whose insurance went up almost $20,000. And he's tried to sell it. And the only way you can sell it to somebody, either they're going to have to pick up the flood insurance or they have to pay cash. If they pay cash, then they don't have to pick up the insurance. It's a major problem. We need to talk to both our rep and our state senator and see if there's anything we can do. But unfortunately, it's the federal government that's driving this.
Harry?
Harry Weichel, 68 Center Street. I am having the same problem. I've lived in here 18 years, went for a home equity line of credit, and was told by the bank that I needed flood insurance. I hired an engineer, in fact it was Webby, here in town. They did a survey, and they submitted that to FEMA, showing that I was 1.5 feet above Plympton's floodplain. I got a letter back from FEMA saying, tough, basically. It cost me $2,800 the first year, and I had one payment. They wouldn't string it out. So I had to come up with $2,800 for my flood insurance. I've been able to get that down to $836. But like he said, I can't sell my house without that being publicized.
What is your name, sir?
Harry Weichel.
Are there any other questions that we can present? Go ahead.
Hi, Kim Hoffman, 16 Granville Baker Way. Question to Mr. Cherry on reducing taxes and increasing services. So I have a mother of 3 children, interested in your opinions, actually for both of you, on whether or not the current amount of funding for the Dennett is acceptable. State funding, Chapter 70 funding, I believe is not enough for what we're currently dealing with. When I see reduced taxes and increased services, I would like to know more specifically what you mean by that.
Well, certainly. In the past few positions I've been in, that's been my primary charge, is to consolidate services, reduce operational costs, and as well as a luxury, or as a bonus, I've been able to increase productivity. And there's a number of ways to go about doing that. In my packet, I outline a few specific ways, but what I have done and what's worked for me, and what I've sort of been met with resistance on in some areas, or doubt, is modifying job descriptions, opening up collective bargaining agreements on the fly, you know, when other towns are looking, like Carver, for instance, and a few other towns, what they're doing is they're hiring consultants to sort of see how they can model that or replicate that model. And, you know, those consultants are calling me because of my experience and how I have set up, you know, a model which can be replicated from town to town.
So I'm curious, as a union representative myself in the Mass Teachers Association, what you exactly mean by opening a contract on the fly.
Well, what we did is we opened up and we created new jobs that were town-wide, whereas before we had school only and town only, and now we've repurposed them into one collective bargaining unit, and now I have maintenance technicians, skilled technicians, as well as HVAC technicians, salary and hourly, that serve a town-wide purpose rather than just an individual section of the town, which, again, with the right people and the right skill sets, we're constantly, you know, every time I hire anybody or propose to hire somebody, it's can we do this for less money in-house?
Am I hearing you say that you're hiring people for the town that work, for the town and for the school district?
Yes.
And you don't see a conflict of interest there?
No, no. We have public unions that serve both, right? We have school only. Some of my staff is school only, but I've repurposed job descriptions to allow them to serve all the town buildings. And that's certainly increased productivity. And that's why, you know, every facility director up and down the South Shore reaches out and tries to find out how you broke down those barriers.
I'd be very cautious statutorily for that.
Maybe I can take a crack at this a little bit. First of all, we are not expert. We are Plympton, and we have very few people when you take out the school, police, and fire. We have 7 staff people, which is, we're running this town with volunteers. If you take a look at the annual report and add up the number of volunteer positions, there's 176 that are volunteers with no money paid. There's 7 that are over, that get paid $500 or more. So the idea that we're going to do this with the unions, we have a union already in the school. The majority of the money goes for staff. What we haven't seen is when some of the older people retire and they bring in new teachers, we haven't necessarily seen the same reduction. But we have seen the school system become one of the finest, really, in the state of Massachusetts. Dennett is really known as an excellent place, and people move in to get into it. And as a Silver Lake Regional High School graduate, more years than I'm going to tell you, that was a terrible school system, and that has come just light years. I used to hear people say, I don't put my kids into Dennett because I know they're going to go to Sacred Heart. And I don't hear that anymore. So I think we made a lot of improvements. We had a bad spell when we went through the recessions. We had 2 of them, 72 later on, where the school classes went up to over 30. But we're down now where we're teaching, I believe, somewhere in the low 20s.
Have that. And I wasn't suggesting that we replicate that model. But, you know, there's certainly, with that framework and with that mindset, you know, we do have management here that's overtime eligible. You know, that's unheard of. You know, so there are other opportunities where we can look at, you know, student-to-teacher ratios and a whole number of different things in order to, you know, and as well as, you know, bringing some resources in-house or outsourcing and things of that nature, which I've done successfully throughout my career. So, you know, again, I'm bringing site-specific solutions. I'm not trying to have a blanket approach. And I haven't done that, you know, every site that I go to, every line of business that I work in, you know, we're bringing site-specific solutions. We're not trying to, you know, one size fits all, you know, by any means.
Just another word of caution of outsourcing, of having someone like a custodian or any other employee, for that matter, coming in that we don't know who they are. They could be shifting, they could be different people on a weekly, monthly basis. Again, a strong caution against outsourcing for people that are going to be with our kids every day.
I wasn't suggesting that we do that either, but typically when outsourcing does happen, they offer the jobs to the in-house people first. But I wasn't suggesting that we do that either, so.
One of the, my background, educational is accounting and finance. I'm a graduate of Belton College. I spent 25 years in different private industry companies. United Fruit Company, I was with United, you probably know it as Chiquita Banana. Lived on a banana plantation from Central America for a couple of years with my wife and children. Went through a number of different companies, controller for a NASDAQ listed company, and then joined Digital Equipment for 18 years. I saw lots of times when we had to downsize, and I saw the hurt that was made on the people, but also the hurt on the company. And I think we have to be careful when we start looking at it. We need to really partner with the school committees and bring them in. And one of the things I don't think we've done as good a job of is getting the departments within Plympton to come in and work together to try to solve some of these issues. Nobody wants to see the taxes go up, least of all me. I'm on the fixed income like every other senior citizen. So I think that's the way we're going to have to work through some of these issues. That's why I'm a big proponent of a 5-year plan. We've never done this in this town, and we need to start doing it so we can start putting priorities on things. And both schools have to be a piece of that puzzle.
Okay, Jake?
Yeah, Jake Jacobson, Main Street, both of you. Hot topic in town is the marijuana. The state hasn't decided yet what they're gonna do. You stated, and I don't know how John feels, if the state says it's an agricultural product, and our zoning is agricultural residential, we don't have two, we got one, will you oppose it? Or will you amend the zoning laws?
I will oppose it wherever it shows its face, and that goes for growing facilities or dispensaries. I just reject it on principle, and I don't want what it comes with, you know, I'm going to reject it anywhere that it shows itself, in any way possible. You know, I would think about maybe in the industrial zone, where it is now, you know, in other parts of the state, but not in a residential agricultural zone.
Even though it's considered farming?
I mean, if we're talking about the purposes it's used for, you know, it's medicinal, it's pharmaceutical. I don't know anybody that's eating it, you know. I think that it's not agricultural.
John?
Yeah, I've already commented on this. I don't believe that we should have marijuana in the location. I'm not against medical marijuana. Like most of you, I'm sure you've had family, relatives, or friends that have dealt with cancer. My wife lost her mother before we were married. My niece is going through that now. So I have no problem with medical marijuana, but it's in the wrong place. If it's going to be here, it should only be in the industrial park. And we should change the bylaw to allow for that. As far as the dispensary, we already have a bylaw. And quite frankly, I don't see how anybody would want to come to Plympton with that bylaw when they could go to Plymouth or Brockton. Also, the cultivation that has been approved by the state, there's 6 of them. I think there's only 2 that are actually in business and 4 are in the process, but they've been approved. Every one of them is in an industrial zone. There's no way we should have residential.
Our problem there, John, we don't have an industrial zone anywhere big enough now to take it. It's almost all used up, so we'd have to rezone.
Well, we wouldn't have to rezone because we've eliminated it, but certainly Mr. Norrie has enough. He owns the industrial park basically, so it would be his decision whether he wanted to make a business decision. Right now, he couldn't do that because we don't allow it.
Yeah, right.
And as far as the building, from the stats I saw, 2,400 pounds of marijuana yields $10 million.
Yeah.
I mean, 2,400 pounds, you can grow that in, certainly in half this building. It's not a big operation.
Thank you.
Someone else? Evie?
Evelyn Hannigan on 292 Main Street. This is for Brian. Could you explain what you mean by bringing a conservative majority back to the Board of Selectmen?
Sure. There's one conservative on the board now, and I would be the second, and that would be 2/3, so. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, it means that we're going to oppose marijuana grow facilities anywhere in the town. I'm going to oppose uncertified group homes anywhere in the town, wherever possible. You know, these are very much a for-profit business, even though they hide under the nonprofit category. Even as recent as the past couple of weeks, we've seen people throughout the South Shore escaping from these places and going onto playgrounds and fondling children and breaking into houses in the town of Plympton with ice picks. And, you know, to me, that's, the opposing view on that is sort of misguided compassion in my view. My compassion is with the law-abiding residents of the town, and I think that's a conservative approach. Also, financially, you know, identifying needs versus wants. You know, do we need a new police station? Do we need a new fire station? Or do we want one? You know, those type of things. You know, conservative financially as well as some social point of views as well.
Well, just talking about the group home, don't conservative children get sick and have drug problems? It's not just people who are not conservative.
Sure.
Yeah, so isn't that kind of a limited something?
I don't think so. I think there's a reason these people aren't getting certified. You know, they're pulling in $20,000 a month, you know, so 3 kids can live for free in this house, and they might have noble intentions, but I think addressing symptoms is not addressing a problem. If we're going to address the opiate addiction issue, we're going to have to stop it from coming into the country, and we're going to have to stop prescribing opiates like candy. And until we do that, we're going to just address symptoms rather than address the solution.
All right, but so the home is here, or another group wants to come in, so you have good policies, and you check up on them, and you follow through on things, and
yeah, if they're certified.
So it works well, and you have a good relationship with that place, because there's a need for it.
There's a need for a lot of things. I mean, but you know,
Rules and regulations. They did it for the same reason they did 40B. There was, houses weren't being allowed, just like the 40B affordable houses weren't being allowed. It's backfired in a sense, because with no regulations, you can have anybody set it up, and it supposedly calls for an educational plan. You could write the educational plan on the back of this sheet and just submit it, and that would do. Now, what is happening is, because of all the backlash, there is a committee set up at the state level that is supposed to come back by December 31st with amendments to the Dover plan. And hopefully, I know that our state rep has been involved in that, and lots of other towns are feeding into that, trying to get some order around that. The intent is not to just ban them, but to start to do things like certified. They don't have to be certified now. They do have a voluntary plan where you don't have to be certified, but you agree to certain measurements, if you will. But it's strictly up to the people who run the house whether they want to come in under that. And I think that's one area, until this Dover Amendment group comes out and hopefully changes it so we have more control, that we try to work with these people to at least make sure that we're not getting hurt.
Thank you, John. Kim, did you have a question?
Not right now.
Someone else?
Come on, it's got to be more questions.
John?
John Henry, 225 Main Street. The town has spending problems, and I think you both have talked about them a little bit, but we also have a revenue problem. How would you address that? Both of you.
I think from the revenue side, one of the things we have to do is we have to do an outreach to a couple of different communities. First, Mr. Norrie. We have to know what Mr. Norrie's plans are with the industrial park. Hopefully we can work with him and start to plan out how we can support helping him find another Cisco or whatever. We need more business in the industrial park. Want me to say? Sure. The other piece of the revenue side, we really haven't, you know, we've talked about having a two-tier tax rate. At this point, I'm against that. I think until we know what's going on with the industrial park, we should have one tier. And that's what the assessors and the board of selectmen in the past have voted. But it is something in the future that down the line we may have to think about that. I do think we have to outreach to Cisco though, and to light control. Those are the two big partners, if you will, in the industrial park. And we need to reach out and tell them, hey, we want to work with you. We want to know what your plans are. We want to know how to help you. We'd like to see you grow. Make sure that we know what's going on, because if we get blindsided, it'll hit the tax rate overnight. If one of them decides to downsize or move, we're really going to be in deep trouble. So we need to know what's going on there. Sorry.
Certainly. So obviously the industrial park is a key resource, you know, as well as reaching out to businesses and trying to establish a relationship where we can entice them to come here. Another idea, potentially 55 plus private community that wouldn't burden the school system, but also bring in revenue. You know, ideas of that nature. Also, you know, controlling expenses. You know, I implement long-term capital plans across multiple lines of businesses, and you know, I do it in short order. You know, and you know, it's really I'm concerned with with the years that you know a lot of the people here have been here, why that hasn't been done yet, and you know, it really should be, and that can help control you know unforeseen liabilities down the road as well as a number of other costs. So that's what I've done, and that's what I'm going to do here.
Go ahead. Sharon Housley, 86 Fern Road. Last night at the Board of Selectmen meeting, the idea of affordable housing for seniors in the town to give them some tax relief and help stop them from moving out of town and allow the town to meet the minimum, so they wouldn't, you know, to have a plan for affordable housing for the town. What would both of your positions be on pursuing something in the way of affordable housing for seniors?
Boy, I think it would have to be, you can't just do a 55 plus for something like that. It would have to be subsidized in order to count. There are also, you know, if subsidized group homes existed that were certified, each bed would count towards that percentage. But, you know, we can also look at current properties and potentially look into, you know, reallocating them as affordable. And that could certainly increase our percentage, get us to that 10%. Those of you who aren't aware, last night the proposed marijuana grow facility people on Ring Road threatened the board with 40B affordable housing complexes on Ring Road. So, you know, we're eager to form a counter strategy to avoid that, you know, because the tax burden will be significant if these affordable housing units come to town. They come with kids, they come with, you know, a whole host of other things that, you know, increase our liability. So we need to resist those whenever possible, in my opinion.
You were there when Mr. Randall made that. I think it was part of the counter strategy to see, you know, if we could move the marijuana along.
Just for the record, I'd rather the houses than the park. Yeah. nonetheless.
I do think, though, one of the things we have to do as a community here, and certainly as a Board of Selectmen, is to organize and get ready, whether it's Mr. Randall or somebody else, more than likely we're going to be faced with that. And we need to have a counter strategy that starts to understand how we can deflect it when we want to and support it when we do want to. I would love to see some affordable housing for seniors, because as I go around the town, I hear that tax rate and affordable housing being the two major issues that are fed back to me. People are feeling like, you know, they have to move out of Plympton because they just can't afford to stay here anymore. So we have to put together a committee, get some really smart people, understand what the state laws are, understand what other towns have done, because then that will give us something to work from. And I think we can do that.
Kim?
Hi, I just have a question, two of them. One is,
Kim Russo,
oh, I'm so sorry, Kim Russo, 140 Palmer Road. One is, Mr. Cherry, I would just like to know, you do this in your other job, where you reduce costs for work. So I would like to know which cost in Plympton that you see that could be reduced, that the Board of Selectmen actually has anything to do with it. Which of the 7 employees that we have would you take money from? Which, you know, where would you save the money in our town? Because I know that we just eke by, so I'm not sure where we would be saving money. And I have another question that's escaping, so maybe we work on that.
So again, you know, we're not necessarily identifying individuals that we're going to cut from, right? But we're operating under that framework and under that mindset of operational efficiency. You know, constantly being able, analyzing the organization and coming up with ways to be more efficient. You know, it's more of a mentality than anything else. You see, government, they always want to do more for you. They're always trying to grow. Every brand of government thinks that they're it, right? They all want to do more for us. They all want to grow. They all want to have the best fire station. They all want to, you know, I'm the lowest paid this. It's all so when they get to their, you know, collective groups, you know, they can brag about whatever. You know, a conservative mindset seeks to limit that, and that's what I'm about. So.
I've heard this term conservative. I'm a little, well, I don't understand how a conservative mindset. I've been on the finance committee for 12 years. I've worked in finance and accounting for 30 years. There have been times when I have had to go through and reduce staff in half. I had to take an 800 manufacturing company to 400 because we weren't going to survive. One of the worst times of my life. We have to be very careful about what we talk about in terms of conservatism. We need to put together plans that look at the company, the town, and say, here's what we need and here's what we can't afford. I'm convinced we need a police station because right now we have it up here. We have one bathroom, whether it's for police, for the prisoners that we may bring in who might have HIV, etc. We have to do something there. Fire station, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I don't know if we can renovate the existing one or whether in fact we have to look out. But in any case, it ought to be a long ways out. It shouldn't be in the next 3-4 years. When I think about it, we can make do. But we do need to know, is that fire station, can it be renovated? I've talked to different people and some tell me they absolutely think it should be closed because there's asbestos. I've talked to other people and they've said, no way, there's no asbestos and we can make do just by doing a few fixes. So the first thing we got to do is figure out, get some smart people in the room who know what they're talking about and go look at it and make sure that we're all playing from the same hymnal. Right now, we don't know. But I do feel that by setting this 5-year planning process in place, we'll be able to prioritize and we'll start to weed out some of the nice to have if we had money versus these we have to have.
Yes, Dick?
Dick Reynolds again. I think one idea for supporting the business in this town, the biggest business we have, which is the biggest business in the country, one of the biggest business, and now worldwide, and that's Cisco. And I think if you know anything about investments, which I don't, but the minute they moved into town, I said, they're doing something for us. And I went out and bought some stock, and it's almost doubled. I know Jake probably had a couple of bucks. But you know, I think to let the people know, if you can afford a share, buy a share. Then you can send them a letter and say, look, everybody in town's behind you.
Good idea.
Someone else? Yes.
On Brook Street. Getting back to the group home, only because I don't understand the word being credit. Now, if you went into a hospital, they wouldn't let a nurse touch you unless you were an accredited nurse. Same with the doctor, same with the teacher. Teacher has to teach the children, they have to be accredited. Now, people that are running the group home, they're not accredited? And you knew this?
The state set up the rules, so we can't play a part in it. That's what's so crazy about this Dover Amendment, and that's why it has to be changed.
And how hard are you working to change it? That's my next question.
Well, there is a state group in place that has to report by the end of December to make changes or make recommendations for changes in the Dover Amendment. It won't be done at a local level because it's got to be done at the state level. It's not just us, it's every town in Massachusetts. I mean,
it just seems ridiculous. I mean, if you've got people that are in charge of people that are sick, maybe not physically, mentally, then they should be accredited and know how to take care of people.
Absolutely. That's why it's so bizarre that the state would put this up.
Okay, thank you.
Another question? Please? Peter?
Peter Schultz, 49 million. Could you comment on the conditions of the roads, which seem to be, the roads, the streets in town, seem to be getting worse and worse over the last 10 years? Is there any way to improve them, or considering that we're probably broke, but... and maybe
McKay is sitting here. He's pointing at me.
I've been holding on to a question all night here, for both of you. Well, how do you feel about the town borrowing some money to fix the roads?
Well, I think moving forward, we need to definitely have a long-term strategy for our catch basins, our crack sealing, as well as our road work. What was your initial part of that question?
How do you feel about the town borrowing?
I think what we need to do is keep allocating the $250,000 per year that you got forward this year. I think that needs to be an annual operating cost. I think that needs to be embedded in the capital improvement plan moving forward. And we can't let that liability get behind us, because if you don't crack seal, then you're replacing roads prematurely. Even the catch basins on my street, I lose one every winter, and there's a cone in it. So we need to have a strategy where we're attacking this proactively, and having that 250, whether it's supplemented by the state or not, be a consistent investment.
John,
yeah,
let John respond, and then you'll have a chance.
This is why, Jim, I think we need this 5-year plan. I would love to be able to commit $250,000 every year going forward. But we know at some point there's going to be a downturn. And that's where we need the plan to start saying, okay, what has the most priority during that? It may be the roads, but it may be something else. And what we've done in the past, we've all suffered together through, I can remember when we had one police officer on duty, and some nights we had none because we couldn't afford it. The fire station was all volunteer. We've come a long way since then. We've upgraded our ambulance service. But if there comes a time when all of a sudden the revenue isn't there, we're all gonna be in this together, and we'll figure out how to prioritize it, and it may be roads don't get quite as much that year.
So if I may, oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. No, you need to respond.
This
We'll let-
gentleman won't answer, it's okay.
I guess I didn't give him a chance, I'm sorry.
So the capital plan that I've implemented at Duxbury allows for that flexibility. We've come up with a liability, a number, an annual investment that we've committed to. And every year, I have the ability to shift those dollars from building to building, site to site, and reprioritize on the fly as needed. I don't get locked in to years 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 immediately with my plan. And that's the flexibility that you need. You need to allocate a dollar figure to your capital improvement plan and then invest annually and have the flexibility. Priorities shift on the fly. You have 40 work orders a month coming in for a leak in this building. You need to reshift those assets and attack that. You can't be tied into a plan, hiring consultants unnecessarily. We don't need to be going down that road. But we need to have flexibility to move money around. We need to commit to a certain dollar figure. I'm not sure what it is yet exactly. But, that's the plan that works for me, and that's, what I've done. So,
I think, again, it's Duxbury. In this town, you're gonna shift money out of the school to the roads. If you're gonna do that, I'd like to know how that's gonna happen. Are you gonna take it from the fire department and give it to the police department?
No, I'm gonna use the capital stabilization fund, and I'm gonna use supplemental.
We set up the capital stabilization fund
How's that?
because when Cisco came in, we knew that if we didn't start putting money into a savings account, then it would get into the operating budget. And if it got into the operating budget, it would be gone every year. So we set up the capital preservation purpose fund for 35%. We have 3 savings accounts. We have stabilization, which can grow to be 10% of our levy. We're getting there. By I think it's 2018, we'll be at the 10%, and then it'll just fluctuate, very small dollars. The capital purpose fund will continue to take in from Cisco, and that's where we're going to be looking at things like the police department, fire if it's needed, roads. We do need a plan, and that's why I'm all for this plan. But the third one we have is the CPA fund. And one of the reasons I support this is because the state gives us today 19 cents for every dollar we contribute. If we invest the stabilization fund, we get 2% or less. So why would I want to give up one savings account that's getting 19%? I'd rather take the money out of stabilization or the capital purpose fund and let the CPA grow. Now, if it turns out that in fact, because it's only limited to 4 things, affordable housing, recreation, preservation, and I forget the other.
Open space.
Open space, oh yes. If it turns out that in fact, we say those are things we don't want to invest in going down the line, we can always cancel that CPA. But we shouldn't be doing it now when we're just starting to implement 5-year planning. It's another piece of the puzzle to make the town grow in a sensible way, and hopefully reduce the tax burden overall.
I have a contrasting opinion to that with respect to the CPA. I don't see where the huge liability is with respect to historic buildings in this town. I don't see how taking properties off the tax levy or the taxable appropriation helps alleviate any property tax from the people who currently live here. We can't be taking properties and having them be, open space when, you know, I'm sorry, what? What are we gonna do with this open space, right? We've taken away opportunities to reduce everyone's taxes just because a small group, you know, thinks it's a good idea. We have a park that's beautiful, right? We could maintain the existing assets with the current balance we have now for 10 years. This is an opportunity, return the money back to the people, eliminate this tax, revisit it in 5 to 10 years. It's not gonna screw up our planning. This is something that a small group enjoys, but the majority of the people in town really aren't benefiting from.
I think that's just a fallacy. The largest town meeting we ever had happened in 2012. Normally our town meetings run 100, 150 people tops. 400 people, 399 actually, just so accurate, showed up to that town meeting. 20% of the town voters. We had to have 2 rooms. First time I can remember it in my 46 years living. We had the land already, 70 acres that was sitting there. What we did was put together, I shouldn't say we, but I'm speaking for the committees, if you will, to get a piece of land that was 10 acres, and then a butter donated more land. When we look at the CPA fund, we say we're going to do away with it. This whole department up here, where the police department is historic building and can be renovated with those funds. That's going to take a major amount of money. We have the gazebo that needs to be renovated. We have the historic old townhouse that needs to have somebody look at the windows because in the winter it just leaks heat. The payback on that would be 3 years or less, I'm sure. So we have projects, and other projects can come forward. It doesn't have to be open space, that's the point. It could be affordable housing, and that's why we need to get a committee together to start saying, what are the options? Let's control our own destiny instead of having somebody come in and say, well, you didn't give me marijuana, so I'm putting up 40B. We need to get ahead of that.
And I just think it should be, you know, put on a warrant article as needed. I don't think we need to tax the people every year. You know, 300 people might have showed up, but, you know, there's 3,000 people in the town.
There's 1,800 voters though, so
yeah.
If you can get them here, we'd love to have them.
Yes, Vicki?
I love the rural character.
Vicki Alberti,
Vicki Alberti, Main Street. We moved to Plympton for the farm life, the rural atmosphere. The CPA has done so much for the quality of life in this town. To see it go would be tragic. There are so many projects that have been done for the town. Our library, the understructure of our library has been saved because of CPA funds. We now have a stair lift in the historical building for the seniors, which came through CPA funds. For the small dollars that go into it, state matched at 19%, it seems ridiculous to vote it away.
Well, it's not a small amount to me of the people being pushed out of town because their tax bills are getting to the point of too high.
I believe that based on your income and your tax level, you might not even have to pay as a CPA.
That's a point that we need to broadcast. The first 100,000 of your valuation is exempt when they compute CPA. But the other piece is that if you're at a certain income level, and I'm not sure I got the numbers exactly right, but I think for 2 people, if you make less than $64,000, that you're exempt? 70? Is that, okay. So 70. For a lot of seniors in town, that's something they ought to be taking advantage of. And as far as I know, nobody is taking advantage of that. And I don't know whether it's because they don't know, or they're embarrassed, or whatever. But it's something that should be worked on.
should have told us about it.
I know. Yes.
Steve Bentley, Anderson Track. The capital improvements that gentleman was talking about, could you address how green technology and sustainability would, the benefits of it financially to the town, and would it help reduce, how much would it help reduce the cost of improvements to both these?
Well, we certainly, can benefit from a capital improvement plan with, upgrading equipment and, controlling it in an efficient manner. It's something I've done for a long time, as well as renewables. I negotiate utility contracts for municipalities. I also I negotiate renewable contracts on big projects for municipalities. And those can certainly, they've done a few here as of recent, can certainly help reduce the operating costs. And that's sort of my primary goal, is to reduce the operating costs. And if you can do that through renovations and modifying buildings, all the better.
One of the kudos I would give to the existing board and to Mr. Henry when he was on and the work he's done since is the fact that we have a number of pilot solar programs going. I believe the selectmen just signed with Freetown, Borregio, I believe is the company. They're building a huge solar system in Freetown. It's already been permitted by the state, and we'll be able to buy electricity at quite a substantial savings. And when we ran the numbers just on the Freetown, over 20 years, we expect to save $2 million approximately. Net present value, if you were working in today's dollars, would be $1 million. That doesn't include the pilot programs. So through the good work of these people, we're seeing that the operating or revenue, either expenses are going down or revenue is going up by about $350,000 a year once these are all in place. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that, and I think it's something we need to keep pushing forward. Solar just satisfies so many things. One, it's out of the way, it's environmentally friendly, you don't have to look at it, and we get a lot of money from it.
Any other questions? Comments? Do either of you want to wrap it up, say something in general to the people who are here this evening?
Sure. Again, I've been resident for 46 years now. I love this town. I believe there are so many good facets to it. The sort of three priorities I have, one is financial planning. It's where I came out of in terms of education, experience, work history. I believe I can help the town in that respect. The other is communications. I think one of the things we have to do is really foster communications. We need to do the website over. It's just unfriendliest website I've ever seen. So we need to have ways of getting the departments to talk to each other. And it's interesting that the capital planning and the financial planning will help with the communications, because we'll have a way of everybody talking to the same point and just getting that going, so we're all talking about what are the priorities in this town. The last one is the rural character. Everybody I talk to wants to stay in Plympton or came to Plympton because they love the environment, the rural character of the town. And I think we just have to keep that in mind and work to do that. Volunteerism is a big part of that. One of the things that Duxbury has that I think we should be doing is they have a talent bank. We should be asking people, you don't have to serve on a committee to help us. You don't have to run for election. But we'd like to know if you've got a certain talent, would you be available for something ad hoc? Volunteerism to me is not just serving on a commission or running for office. It's CASA, it's PAYS, it's all the different groups in town, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. I mean, that's what makes this town work. And volunteerism is the way it's gotta keep going. We're gonna keep the town together.
Okay, Brian?
So, you know, I obviously agree with what Mr. Trainer said. We all moved here because we love the town, you know, we love the agricultural, the farming, you know, the whole deal, you know, and I'm certainly not somebody who's been entrenched in this building for the past few decades. I'm new on the scene. But I think that comes with a lot of advantages. I don't owe anybody anything. I'm not tied down into any sort of back and forth that might exist or anything of that nature. I certainly, you know, I want to address the seniors in the services that are provided to them. You know, I work alongside a senior center director that's a nationally accredited operation, and I see the impact that it has. And we can do a lot better than, you know, what we're doing now. I think we can, you know, help Chris bring a legacy to this town with respect to the services we provide. I certainly have many contacts that I can, that I've established over the past few years that I can help with. Again, the capital improvement planning, and I'm doing that town-wide. 63 buildings, school, town, across multiple lines of business. It's a strength of mine. You know, I'm in it for the long haul, and I appreciate your vote on May 21st.
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate the discourse. I think it helped us.
I left some pads over here that has vote on.